Welcome. This is Dallas Divorce Talk from the couch. My name is Dawn Budner. I'm here with my partner, Carla Calabrese. Say hello, Carla.
Hello, Carla. No, I'm kidding. Hi, Dawn. How are
Carla
you
Calabrese.
today from Utah? Lucky you.
I know. We are family lawyers at the law firm Calabrese Budner, and we are reaching out to you during this crazy time of quarantine with COVID-19 and wanting to share and talk to you about some topics we think are really relevant while we're all at home. And this topic for this discussion is collaborative divorce. And what we want to do is really just kind of explain from A to Z for folks who may not be as familiar, what is collaborative divorce and how does it work? And so, Carla, with that, I'm throwing it over to you to kind of introduce folks to the concept.
Okay. Collaborative divorce is something that I've been practicing for quite a while, since it came into being in 2000 in Texas, started in Dallas. And it's essentially a process that you, with your spouse, commit to trying to settle the case first before spending significant amounts of money on litigation resources or litigation, like things that you do in litigation, like depositions or discovery, things like that. You say, we're going to take as much time as we need to try to get this resolved without having to go to the courthouse. In almost all collaborative cases, we have a mental health professional and we have a financial professional, both of whom are neutral. So they're like built in like reality checks or built in little mini mediators. So not exactly as much that, more like reality checks that help the couple essentially come to agreement over the course of the case on the myriad of issues that need to be resolved in a divorce, especially one with children. So collaborative divorce is a process that is, it's definitely more, I think our business clients love it because they see it more like the way they run their daily businesses. Like we have joint meetings where we have the two lawyers, two clients, and usually just the two professionals. If you have children, you might need to have a child specialist come in and talk about your children's voice, meaning what they think about what's going on for them. But typically it's just the two lawyers, two clients, and the mental health professional and the financial professional. And those joint meetings are where we do the majority of our work. And they're run by agendas. We take minutes for those meetings. We circulate them. And, so it feels, I think, for business folks, like what they're used to, in terms of how they run their daily lives. For most everybody else, I think it's also very appealing, for a stay-at-home mom or a stay-at-home parent, that this is a very appealing process as well, because we're just very creative in the collaborative process. We come up with very creative resolutions. And so the courthouse can be very cookie cutter with the way it addresses a lot of the issues that come up in family court. And unfortunately for stay-at-home parents, sometimes it's not the best. We don't have the best laws in Texas. We're a little bit behind some of these other jurisdictions like the East Coast that does more alimony and more support than Texas does. So you can be a little bit more creative in the collaborative process, and it's really more of a win-win. So a parent who's being more generous, let's say, will definitely get a lot out of that process too. So there's just going to be a lot more win-wins going on in collaborative. So I think that's kind of the basis of it. There's certainly more, but
let me jump in with a few thoughts, because so even though I practiced for 20 years as a commercial litigator before becoming a family lawyer exclusively, and I run our litigation group at the firm, but every time I meet with a new client, I do all I can to try to push the case into collaborative, because I think that it's a process that's really, it's just an elevated process that is tailored to the needs of the couple And if they have children, then also tailored to the needs of the children. And it takes you to a higher place, because you start out by figuring out what are your goals, what are your interests. And, for most people, they're going to say, gosh, I would like to feel financially secure. I would like my children's college to be secure. I would like as little disruption in the lives of my children as possible. Those kind of things are very common goals and interests for folks. And what's great is that when everyone shares those and settles on those, then it helps to kind of calibrate people along the way, because collaborative is not just for people who are, wishy-washy and like to get pushed around. It's not just for people who are already agreeing on everything. You can have fireworks in a collaborative case. It's kind of built into the system. Everybody can then go home and lick their wounds and, get back where they need to be and start again. But so it's very human. I think it's very responsive to the needs of the folks that are there. And what I like to say to my clients is, it's kind of like the collaborative process is like a choo-choo train, and you get on it. It's not loosey-goosey. There are specific procedures and rules that you follow. And it's like, the schedule for the train station. That train is going. It's getting to the station at X o'clock. And so if you jump on, you may have a stop or two that you're feeling a little nauseous, but you're going to make it to the station. And I think that, if folks can understand the difference between, where you will be and how you will feel at that train station versus if you go through a trial against someone who's your family member, it's just a no-brainer that's the ride you want to take, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt about it. I mean, we've seen so much destruction and, of family units and, people who don't speak to each other anymore in litigation after it's said and done. Children whose, parents are so estranged that it's so, unbelievably painful for those kids. And, I can tell you, I've been doing collaborative divorce for 20 years, and I don't have one case, and I've done it a lot. I'm a master level collaborative attorney, and I've done a lot of cases, and I can't think of one case where people don't speak to each other after the divorce is over. I have seen a ton of that in litigation, and it's really so disruptive it's just so damaging for children, and it's damaging really for the people too. I mean, you can't imagine, how difficult it is for one and probably both of the parties that are dealing with the emotional energy it takes to be that angry still, right? So, of course, big believer in collaborative, have had tremendous success in our firm with it, have done every kind of case you can imagine. Where it's not, we have tons of cases with people who've had relationships outside the marriage. We've had, just a lot of different variables that are common in litigation cases. And I go so far as to say, the collaborative, there's really not a case that's not appropriate for collaborative. The difference is the people who are handling the case, for the most part. I'm not saying that there aren't some people that are, maybe not the best candidates, but I think that in my experience, which, has been doing it for quite a while, it's really been not so much the couple or a person or, a spouse. It's just, you got to have the right people handling your case. And if you have the right team, I mean, the right team, in my experience, I've never had a case terminate, which I do need to share that with you because that's part of the process. So terminating a collaborative case, which does not happen that often, at least not to people, that are super experienced. And I don't think the rate is that high to begin with. But, the way it works is the team that you select, the lawyers, the mental health, the financial, those people cannot continue on and represent you at the courthouse. You can't call the mental health professional and say, hey, this is what happened during the collaborative process. You need to testify about that. She agreed to do this or he agreed to do that. Cannot call those people, cannot call the financial professional, can't call the child specialist for the kids. And the lawyers can't represent you at the courthouse either. And I think for probably still happening today, and certainly in the beginning of the collaborative movement back in 2000 in Texas, we had a lot of, oh my goodness, you can't lose your lawyer. Oh, heaven forbid if you lose your lawyer. And, a lot of fear that, people had, instilled by certain lawyers that just didn't want to lose the client either. But I can tell you, I've been doing this for 20 plus years, and, not only, I have had very, very few cases terminate on my watch. And, especially the only times I can think of, and it's just been less than 5, with, you can imagine 20 years of divorcing people through collaborative. And, they were mistakes that I think I think the team made. We did a case without a mental health professional one time. Never will do that again. I also took a case with a lawyer on the other side that I did not think really had their heart in collaborative. Won't do that again. And that was done only because the lawyer happened to come along with, as a former family, baseball coach or something of their kids. So other than that, I can honestly tell you some of the early on cases, I think we were just green behind the ears, right? We didn't exactly know what we were doing. But I would say in the last 10 years, 15 years, it just doesn't happen. Now, it does happen. I'm not saying it doesn't out in the world, but it doesn't happen with experienced, credentialed. We have credentialing now. So that means somebody who's got significant amount of experience and does a certain amount of training and has to attend a certain amount of, CLEs and the conferences that we have annually through the State Bar of Texas. And it's pretty rigorous to get credentialed. And we have our 2 levels. Master credential is somebody like me who's just been doing it, luckily for me, since day one. And then there are, credentialed people who are just have less cases, but still have exhibited a tremendous amount of, commitment to the collaborative process. And I think if you get a credentialed, collaborative lawyer, and the right team, we just haven't had those problems. We've had tremendous success, and we have had hard cases. I know, Dawn, some of the cases in our firm that have been unbelievably difficult. And and there are cases where I've had clients be, angry as all get out at everybody, including the collaborative process, but they're still in it and they will finish in it. And I suspect when it's all said and done, they're going to be realizing, because divorce is hard. The fact that you're doing collaborative doesn't mean it's going to be a cakewalk. It's still a divorce.
Right. And let me share, I want to add to what Carla is saying about the reason for the requirement that if a case in collaborative terminates, that you have to start over from scratch. Okay. That is the thing that I feel like more lawyers don't like it, maybe even than the clients, because the lawyers don't want to lose the business. But let me explain why it's necessary. It's necessary because, wow, that sucks. Nobody wants to go start over, right? That is the reason that people don't terminate the cases. So you've got that hammer out there that if you give up or you get mad and you go say, forget it, and throw up your hands and go to court, that's a real undertaking to start over from scratch. And so because of that, that's why we have so few collaborative cases that do terminate. And I think it's well worth it. I think it's well worth that possibility to keep people in the process when sometimes the going gets really tough. And I'll give an example of, as you're speaking about sort of the different creative approaches in hard cases. I have got several of them that I can just bring to mind where, for example, I had one case where my client had numerous affairs. And, a spouse might think, well, I'm taking him to court. I want my day in court because he had those affairs. And luckily, the wife did not do that and went the collaborative route. And she, for some reason, she kind of couldn't let go of the idea that he had spent money on other women. And so basically, my client was willing to write a big fat check and say, this is more than it could ever have been, but that wasn't good enough for her. She wanted to go, and part of her process through, just what she needed to get through to get to the other side emotionally and let go seemed to be doing some, bit of undertaking of looking at records and all that. And so I told him, sorry, don't have 4 affairs, and he was mad at me for a day, but we gave her what she needed. And sure enough, at a certain point, she was like, okay, I'm done. And, another case I had where some kids were really mad at one of their parents, and we had a child special, and, it's just the best money you can spend, because it's just a few hours of time from someone who's got vast experience working with kids. And
Dawn, I think there was a little bit of a blip in your internet. So what I think they missed was the child specialist.
Oh, okay. Okay. So I'm talking now about the child specialist.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in divorce cases where there are minor children and even adult children, I have actually done this. And you bring we need another name, don't we? If it's adult children, for the child specialist, but you bring that person in, and basically what they do is have a meeting offline with the kids where the kids can very openly share their feelings about things. If they're younger kids, they can also give their 2 cents on how they would like their lives to run. So, parents often will talk about, well, that's my time and all that. And I always want to say, no, it's actually your kid's time. Like, they're a separate human. And so it's great to have an objective third party who already has a ton of education and experience working with kids and what's best for kids, to hear from your particular kids in a way that they're unlikely to feel like they can say. They don't want to hurt one parent's feelings or the other and all that, but they'll tell this person, this child specialist, and then the child specialist will share it with the parents. And I think it's invaluable, because some of the research that has been done, it shows that kids really feel that they're just left out in the cold in the divorce process, that no one really consults with them in terms of how it's impacting their lives. And that makes sense, right? Because when parents are going through this, it's overwhelming from so many different perspectives. And they're, most folks are trying to cope, keep, food on the table, and figure out what they're going to do next and keep it together. And so this is just a way, for the expense of, a few hours of someone's time as a child specialist, to come in and have your child feel that their voice was considered. Not that you're going to be bound to do what your kid says they want, but to consider it among, the other evidence, or I shouldn't say evidence. See, that was the trial lawyer talking, but, just the other information that's out there. So I think that's
what we say in collaborative for the child specialist, and is very clear, is it's just children get a voice, not a vote. And so,
right.
They get a voice because they need to be heard, and but they don't get a vote, and they're told that by the child specialist. They're very clearly told, look, we're going to take your thoughts and wishes into consideration, but your parents are the decision makers in your life until you're 18. And but we definitely have seen, honestly, we started doing that later than I wished. We started doing the child specialist role, and it's been amazing ever since then. And the clients think it's great. I mean, they really, it's just awkward. You don't want to talk about divorce with your kids, because it's, you're never going to say the right thing, and you want to make sure you haven't said something that would be held against you. And so you get somebody who's trained in child development to talk to your children about what's going on. So it's like Dawn said, it's negligible in terms of cost, relatively speaking, unless somebody wants to use the child specialist more, and we've had that too, but still fairly negligible, but great value to the process.
Well, and another thing that this is reminding me, again, knowing that folks out there listening may have very little context for what we're talking about, when you first start the collaborative process, you can say, you can put on the table, here are matters that really we need to put up front so we can decide them for the pendency of the case. And those can include, finances and things like that, but it can also include, we'd like some guidance on how to tell our children. So you can work with the mental health professional offline to help you figure out the best way to tell the children what's happening.
Oh, yeah.
So really, it's kind of any issue that comes up that needs to be addressed between the spouses, throughout the process, can be handled with the help of, it's not just professionals. What they are is they are experts in the two areas that are in play in a divorce. And so you've got the property division, financial matters, and you've got the, assuming that there are kids, you've got the parenting plan, which is required by law and is going to address, who gets the kids when and how the kids are provided for, et cetera. Yeah. So really what you've done is you've brought to the process to guide people with their expertise, which is helpful.
And I don't think I've said this in this episode, but there's no doubt that every divorce is primarily emotional. I mean, I always say it's like 75% plus emotional, and the rest of it divided between the property and finances. And so legal and finances. So, this collaborative is very emotionally intelligent. It's an emotionally intelligent process. It is an efficient process. It's effective. It does things that the courthouse can't do, and that the best judge, and we've got a lot of great ones, just can't do for you. So we're definitely, we've been doing it for 20 years, and we've had a tremendous amount of success with it. And we're, during this pandemic, I mean, to the extent that, people want to go through a process, you can start a collaborative process. You can do it through Zoom, just like I think discussed in our last episode, that there's mediation by Zoom. This is the same thing. I mean, we're handling cases right now through Zoom that have already started. So again, courthouses are, not as accessible anyway. So why not try something that's probably healthier for your family in the long run, as is what we think. So
Carla, when you were saying that, I wish that we would have started off at the very beginning. And so we'll close with this thought, which is that collaborative divorce addresses the whole picture. Collaborative divorce provides a way to meet the needs of every member of the family throughout the whole process, whereas the court can decide the legal issues.
Yeah.
And in my experience, create a whole bunch of extra emotional issues for you to deal with.
Right. They try so hard, right? I mean,
that's right.
20 minutes each side in Collin County. I mean, like you said, how could you ever present the complexities of marriage? Remember the movie, It's Complicated? Marriage is complicated.
Remember the movie War of the Roses?
They're complicated. I mean, life is complicated. And so, collaborative has got everything you need to take that complexity and figure it out.
And avoid unnecessary suffering. There is some suffering that it's part of this. You're breaking up a family, and there is pain and there is loss, but you don't have to add unnecessary suffering into the mix. And that's what we're hoping to avoid with this process, is to meet everybody's needs in a way that actually promotes healing.
For sure. And of course, unnecessary litigation and unnecessary suffering is unnecessary cost, in our opinion. So sure. We definitely think it's the most effective use of your dollars. So, well, I guess that's a wrap for episode 4, Dawn. So thank you all for listening to us. We are going to continue these throughout, certainly for the next several weeks. And we may or may not go back into the studio. We're not sure. We're enjoying the heck out of this. So we're really hopeful that everybody's staying safe and healthy, and our hearts are going out to anybody who's dealing with a friend or family member who's, dealing with this terrible virus. And, we've got prayer trains that have been, sent around our firm and friends. And, we just want, we just pray that this all gets behind us as soon as it can.
Stay safe out there. And if you have questions, ask them on Facebook, or you can email us at Carla or Dawn at calabresebudner.com. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.